Welcome to Across Africa, our weekly look at stories from across the continent. I'm Georgia Calvin-Smith, and this week, Ethiopian researchers are hoping that a local staple, colloquially known as the false banana, could offer a way to tackle food shortages. The nutritious, drought-resistant Enset is eaten by tens of millions in the country, but is little known elsewhere. Also, 9 ancient Libyan artefacts have been returned home. The works are now back in Tripoli after having been illegally excavated and looted during 21st century conflicts and smuggled out to the United States. And translating the complexity of the contemporary African experience into portraiture, rising Nigerian artist Matthew Eguavoen's latest series focuses on fatherhood and recentering his focus and the observer's gaze on children. But first, about 20 million people in Ethiopia regularly eat Enset. It's also known as false banana and is a hardy, nutritious plant that for now is only cultivated in its domesticated form in Ethiopia. Researchers there have been exploring ways of upping its cultivation and use, as they say it could help tackle rocketing food insecurity on the continent. Maria Gerth-Nicolescu tells us more.
Enset, or false banana, is the staple food in this village in southern Ethiopia. Its flesh is usually extracted by hand. The fruit is nutritious and versatile, but is relatively unknown internationally.
We use it for everything, animals and humans alike. Enset saves us from hunger. You can also extract the starch, used especially by pregnant women. The fibre is also used for ropes and building roofs for the houses.
Transforming Inset takes a lot of physical labor, and the job is traditionally performed by women. Men concentrate on farming. The plant is extremely hardy and can be harvested all year long.
Cultivating Enset isn't difficult compared to other crops. You only have to add compost from manure and household waste. We don't add any water. The plant keeps its humidity even during the dry season, so it's not necessary to water it.
Africa has seen droughts multiply over the decades. Researchers say Inset's climate resistance could see it play an important part in the fight against hunger in the future. This biologist has been exploring the Inset's potential, including looking at ways to reduce its fermentation time from several weeks to a few days.
We have been promoting Inset as the next superfood. Most people, they try to pull Inset out of the farming system because they think that it's always laborious. But nowadays we introduce a new type of modern processing tools as well as modern fermentation technology. So I think from our long years of experience, Inset will be the ultimate solution for the global food crisis.
Adisu Fekadu wants to see a ramp-up of sales of Inset-derived products and improve the fruit's visibility. He says that by 2060, Inset could provide food for over 100 million people around the world.
Objects smuggled from Libya have been repatriated by the United States. The returned loot includes a rare statue of a veiled woman dating from the 3rd century BC. The stolen items had been illegally excavated and shipped to the US. American authorities have already returned more than 1,500 items stolen from around the world. Camille Edlek has the story.
The red carpet was rolled out in Tripoli for a very special type of VIP. Several ancient objects of priceless cultural value were returned by the US to Libya in a reception ceremony.
We are very proud to work with the Libyan authorities for the return of these really important cultural antiquities today. The process to return cultural antiquities is incredibly complex. It requires massive partnership.
With a veiled face and a gaze that reaches across the centuries, this is one of the most prized objects in the collection. This statue is among only 10 ancient female statues depicted with her face covered. Dating from around the 3rd century BC, she came from the ancient city of Sorini. Just like this statue, bearded bust of a man who lived around 2 century AD. 20 years ago, traffickers cut off their heads and sold them.
All of these antiquities were discovered due to unofficial excavations and were removed from Libya illegally. They were not stolen from Libyan museums or warehouses because they were never registered with us in the first place.
Several archaeological ruins in Libya dating back to antiquity are designated UNESCO World Heritage Sites. But lack of protection from looters and clashes between militia groups have left these unique places vulnerable. Having stood for thousands of years, the 21st century could be the century these sites finally fall.
Now, portraits have often been a way to anchor their subjects in history, wanting to use the art to put more focus on contemporary African society and figures. Rising Nigerian artist Matthew Eguavoen has created a series of works capturing the essence of subjects who, though often stylishly dressed, we catch during mundane, often domestic moments. His works are featured in collections across the continent, also in Europe and the US, most recently at the Cape Town Art Fair, at Art Genève in Switzerland, and at Christie's in Paris. He's also just opened his first solo exhibition here, which features a dozen new pieces that focus on family and fatherhood. He joins me now. Matthew, thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you very much for having me.
So first of all, let's talk about how you became an artist, because you used to be an engineer. What led to the switch?
Okay, engineering was influenced by my father. He wanted me to study engineering because he felt that was where the money is, and it's easier to get a job being an engineer. But initially, I wanted to be a computer science scientist, and I also wanted to be a fashion designer. But he didn't see the light in that, so he said I must do engineering, so I had to. But in my final year, I started looking for something else that I could do that I have passion for, and then art was something that came up, and then I started practicing a lot, using references from Instagram, YouTube's, Google, and then I'm here today.
So how do you choose the subjects that you decide to portray? You say you've looked a lot on social media, but how do you filter through what's on offer?
I usually use images that speak to me personally, and then images that also deal with the subject I'm trying to draw attention to. Those are the kind of images I use. You would notice that most of my images have a focused look. The eyes, they say, is the window to the soul. So most of my images are always looking at you directly. My art is always like that. I just want my viewers to always imagine what the model is thinking at that particular time and what the ideology about life is about.
Yeah, that is what really strikes me from a lot of your work. It feels like you've intruded in their space and they're really staring at you as you participate in whatever moment's being portrayed.
Yes.
But you said that, there's certain issues that you try to address in your work.
Yeah.
What are they?
I try to address, because I'm from Nigeria, Lagos, Nigeria, I try to address issues in Africa that has to do with where I am at the particular moment. We have a lot of political issues in Africa, most especially Nigeria where I am, and we have economic issues, we have issues of gender inequality, and then mental health, which is not really taken seriously in Africa, because you hardly find anybody who is wanting to go see a shrink or a doctor to talk about their mental health or how they feel, depression and all that. So I try to use my work to draw attention to all these issues.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what do you think is changing about the portrayal of Africans within portraiture? Is there anything about the historical representation of Africans in portraiture that you are trying specifically to move away from?
Yeah. In the past, Africans have been represented as suffering. It's either you see a woman carrying a baby behind the back and then carrying heavy load on her head coming back from the farm, or you see a fisherman in the sea trying to get fishes and all that. Africa has moved beyond all those kind of images. Africa has really, really moved beyond that. And I'm very, very happy right now that the new contemporary works from various artists like myself are trying to portray Africa in a better light, in a more realistic light from what has been represented in the past.
So your latest series is called Egbe Okpa. Why did you choose that name, and what's it about?
Egbe Okpa is one family from, Egbe Okpa is from Edo State. I'm from Edo State, Nigeria, and that's a Bini language. It's supposed to mean one family in English. The body of work is the bond that exists between family members, husband and wife, spouse, mother and child, father and child, that bond that exists. Though we have differences as people, but we also have a bond that connects us. You understand? So I'm trying to represent that bond that connects mother and child, even though they usually have differences, like mother and daughter do fight like every time, but there's still that bond that connects the both of them. So that is what I'm trying to talk about in all my works.
Yeah, that's another thing that I noticed, that there were quite a few of the pieces in which a child was featured, and like the attention's at, even though the adults are very strongly portrayed, the attention is on the child. There's one with the little kid kind of pointing across.
For that particular one, you would notice the child is pointing out, and the eyes is a little bit whiter than that of the adults, which are the parents. The eyes for the adults are darker because they've experienced a lot in life, but the child still has like a future. That's why you see the hand go like this.
So it's representing the innocence and the hope.
Exactly, for that particular model.
And so why have you decided to come and exhibit here in Paris?
This is my first time out of Africa, fortunately. So,
well, thanks for making time to come see us.
So I just feel like it's an opportunity for my work to be out there in Europe and all over the world eventually. But I'm starting with Europe first, and I like the reception I get around here for my works. It's been really massive.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy schedule to come see us across Africa. Matthew Eguavoen, your exhibition is going to be running, I think, until the 3rd of May. The name of the gallery is?
Africaris.
Until
gallery.
the 3rd of May. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you very much.
To see us.
Thank you.
Well, that is all that we have time for on Across Africa. Thanks for joining us, and do so again if you can. Till then, take care.